I mean, I am still impressed that he can bend his knees like in like that shallow squat
Yeah.
really quick to dip, and I'm like, God damn, I can't even do it that fast.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
All right. So this weekend, we have a very meh Apex card, despite it being UFC Apex 100. So we're skipping to the following weekend.
Yeah, because we've got two big events next weekend. So Monday or Tuesday, we will talk about what happened this weekend, if it's worthwhile. And then it's going to be picks for 309, the penultimate pay-per-view this year. But there's a fight before that, Colin. There's a big fight before that. Streamed into over, is it 200 million American homes? Or 200 million worldwide? I don't know what Netflix's final numbers are. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson and the card underneath it. Here we are. Any like opening thoughts about that fight overall?
How did this fight even come to being? Like, I'm curious because it's been going on for so long. I'm wondering who brought it to whom, because like Jake Paul's been doing his thing, and he just like have a list of people he wants to go down, and he like approached Mike Tyson, or was Mike Tyson like, all right, I'll step in to fight this kid?
I think it was Jake Paul's. He's been setting up because it's going to be promoted by MVP Promotions, which is Jake Paul's promotional arm or promotional business.
Right.
He's the one who has been setting up basically all of his own fights. And I think he also helped set up the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight as well. So I believe it was him and him reaching out to Netflix with this deal to try to get this fight. And like you said, does he have a list? I know he does have a list. His ultimate goal is to fight Conor McGregor and then Canelo Alvarez. Those are like his big two. Which I tell you what, if this event does well, because Canelo said like I don't really need to fight Jake Paul, but if this event does well, I could see Canelo fighting him. Conor I don't think will ever get the chance to fight him just because he's locked into that UFC contract, and I don't know if he'll ever be able to get out, barring all of his legal issues that are currently going on in Ireland. So yeah, this is the brainchild of Jake Paul, which for everything that you may or may not like about Jake Paul, however repugnant his personality is and way of kind of going about the world, he understands how to get eyeballs, man. He's pretty savvy.
Yeah, I mean that was his first job as a YouTuber. So
yeah, I mean, but like just because it's your job doesn't mean you're good at it. You know?
Yeah, fair. Okay,
he was a successful YouTuber, but like he and his brother were just like blue-eyed, white-skinned, blonde-haired, like athletic dudes who were like ha ha ha, like, and they just got in at the ground like floor at YouTube. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's like successful. They just were kind of first to market. But besides that, he has proven that he is pretty savvy when it comes to boxing promotion and putting on free show fights or fights that just make MMA fans really, really mad, and that garners eyeballs. So first off, let's before we dive into like because I think the most interesting angle is the Netflix angle, right? Like, what does this mean for boxing? What does this mean for MMA? And like, what do you hope this looks like on Netflix? About the fight itself, give me your sense of probably what will happen in this fight.
Okay, well, you have a 27-year-old versus a 58-year-old.
Yes, and I will note that is the record for largest age disparity in a professional boxing match in the history of the United States.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, if this fight goes like beyond a couple rounds, then it's just like, okay, whoever, e- even though it's Mike Tyson, at 58, you're not moving like you're in your late 20s. You just aren't,
Dude, when you're 38, you ain't moving like you're in your late 20s.
Well, remember, this is heavyweight too, so,
Yeah, but I mean, what Tyson's got nearly 60 fights, and his
yeah.
last like 3 were TKOs, and then
Mhm.
he abused cocaine and alcohol for a long time. So
Yep,
uh, the body keeps score. The body only has so much to give.
it
Um,
does.
yeah,
It does. But also, the body can only take so much, and
yeah,
if Tyson is able to land one strike on Jake Paul, I think that could actually do like major damage to this guy. Like Jake has not been hit or in a fight with someone like Mike Tyson before. Now,
yeah.
yes,
That's
Mike
true.
Tyson is definitely older and maybe, a shade of what he once was, but the amount of training and work that he's done, that the body also doesn't forget that either. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Have
mean,
you
they
seen
are they are fighting with 14-ounce gloves. They
Yeah,
are fighting only 2-minute rounds.
yeah.
So that the 2 minutes I don't know if that favors Mike Tyson or if that favors Jake Paul. So
I believe it was Tyson that asked for the 2 minutes.
mm,
So yeah, because normally, men's fights will be 3-minute rounds. For anyone who doesn't know about boxing, is just tuning in because they saw Jake Paul's name on whatever the thumbnail is of this podcast. Yeah, 2-minute rounds, and it's usually is it 12-ounce gloves usually for heavyweight fights, or is 14 ounce? Is that normal? I think that
uh,
14 ounce is normal.
well, I
Um,
think they can negotiate during,
yeah,
so
yeah, but it seems like there has been some requests from the Tyson camp. Uh, to make this fight a little less than just like a standard 8-round heavyweight affair. Um,
mm,
uh, let me see, because it's 10-ounce below welterweight. It's typically in a professional fight it'll be 12-ounce or for a heavyweight and below.
mm,
So yeah, a little bit squishier gloves and a little bit shorter time span. Uh,
mm,
yeah. And I think that's because I think Tyson knows, like, I mean, his camp knows he's fucking nearly 60 years old, man.
yeah.
Like, if this was ancient Rome, he'd be the wise sage we go to on top of a mountain to ask about like how to throw the left hook. Like, he would not be down there fighting a nearly 28-year-old, like nearly in his athletic prime. So yeah, but you still haven't said what that looks like. What does this fight look like?
Oh, okay. So we've talked about this before. Like Jake tends to like have a wide stance and kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just like kind of wince back, like almost like you see like beginners do, because that is what he is.
Yeah.
He is extremely athletic, so I will definitely give him that. But like
Extremely?
the Pauls are pretty athletic. Like
Yeah, but they're not like Simone Biles, fucking Rafael Nadal. Like they're
no, no,
athletic
no.
dudes that like maybe could have competed in a like D2 college team, but like these aren't like
They're not the
NFL
cream of the
level.
crop. No,
Yeah, they're athletic.
but but they are athletic. That being said, just baseline technique, he's got a little bit, but not too much. And here's the thing: Mike Tyson has made an entire career off of chopping down bigger, taller people. So can he, like, as Jake Paul's kind of like with this widened out stance and leaning away, slip in, work the body, and just slam into his head as it comes back? Like,
It's a question.
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. And I think there is a small possibility of it happening.
Yeah.
And if it does, I will cheer and rejoice.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, it has been. You said he made a career out of beating taller men. That's true. The thing is, he hasn't worked in that career for over 28 years or 20
Mhm.
years. Like he hasn't almost as long as Jake Paul has been alive. Mike Tyson has not boxed. You know what I mean? Uh, So I think you're exactly right, though. Jake Paul has like three huge defensive liabilities. He stands way too long in his stance. His
Yeah.
feet are way too wide, so he can't pivot or really like once he gets into an exchange, it's just straight in or straight out. There's no like darting off to the side, sidestepping anything, which is not great at mid-level boxing. You know, it's fine when you're beating up jabronis and Ben Askren, but not real boxers.
Yeah.
He also, I think, like you said, like he winces. Like at this point, I really think, um, I, I really do think. I mean, you see him more than I do. Actively training with people much more than I do. But like, I really think that some people can't break that. I think that's just like a deep lizard brain neurological thing that happens with some people and not with some people, which
Mhm.
is like the wincing when a punch hits, or like the kind of fight or flight, even if it's just momentary, even if it's just 2 seconds of like panic when you get hit, rather than staying calm and just firing back. And I
Mhm.
just think Paul doesn't quite have the like literal like probably neurological makeup to just like not wince, right? Because it is a very like reflexive action. Um, and I mean, we've trained with people and they're like 13 and they don't wince, right? Like I don't think
Yeah.
Mike Perry, since he was like 5, has ever winced at anything. Like Mike Perry is just when the call to violence rings, he answers it instantly.
Mhm.
um, and I think Jake Paul just kind of doesn't have that. So he does wince back. And one of the terrible things that he does is when he does that, he typically will look and like put his face parallel with the ground, um, which is also what he does when he throws his overhand right, which is his big power shot.
Yeah.
And so he has this really bad habit of looking down when he throws rather than keeping his eyes on the target. Um, and so you'd think, hey, if somebody can scare him a little and come forward and then throw an uppercut, his face is right there on a platter if you can get past his range. And we love to watch Mike Tyson in like those 1980s videos when he's fucking dipping from side to side and then like unleashing 500 hooks and uppercuts in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But again, that's Mike Tyson 40 years ago, guys. That's not Tyson now. I know he's been putting out his like combination work where he's throwing like 5 or 6 hooks in combo, and he's been releasing that and then like jumping rope a little. But I've not seen him throw that combination, reset his feet, and then continue to do that for 2 more minutes. You know what I mean? I've
Yeah.
seen him do it in a 5-second video, and that makes me nervous.
But that's the thing.
Um,
Like he may only need to do that once or twice around, you know?
yeah, but how? Like, I guess the thing is, it also relies on him get perfectly getting to Jake Paul, and Jake Paul like not covering with those thicker gloves, and like not trying to use trunk movement or like shelling up to avoid the worst of that damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
But I don't think Jake Paul's ever also been hit by like a barrage while covering up like that.
yeah.
And just being hit, one, being hit that way, and two, being hit with that kind of power that he's never felt before from
Mhm,
someone and from angles like Mike Tyson.
mhm.
Like you said, because that is like uh a beginner deficiency of his where it's just like him like wincing away from a fight or like not having that kind of experience in like the big show of that actually happening that could be problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so then the question really comes down to like, do you trust that Tyson can, because probably the first combo he throws won't be like this amazing knockout combo, right? Jake Paul will probably be on his P's and Q's and be like, the second I see Mike moving at me, I'm gonna put my earmuffs on and back up. You know what I mean? Like he's just gonna be
Mhm.
like, and I'm moving. Um, so it requires Tyson to get Jake stationary and then set him up to knock him out. And then, like, if the first combination spooks Jake Paul, like, does he just get on his bike and run away for most of the round, and then as Tyson is following him, I mean, the thing is like Tyson really is this extremely we have an extremely short window for him to land devastating punches because he'll get
Yeah.
tired. He's nearly
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
He's gonna get tired. Now maybe I can't accuse anyone. I don't believe they're drug tested. Oh, are both of these guys maybe on some pretty sweet protein powder? Maybe. I mean, they definitely should be. Especially Tyson. Like, I don't want his body exploding into dust the second he gets hit. But yeah, I kind of don't trust that of all the scenarios that can play out that Tyson will be able to like perfectly land extremely clean super early in this fight.
Mhm.
Because Jake Paul probably knows like if I can just survive the first 2 or 3 rounds, like the back 4 or 5 are going to be a lot easier and a lot less scary.
Yeah.
And Tyson's going to be a lot easier to hit. Like I mean, he's 60. His reflex time is going to be super slow, right? Like seeing things coming. Like that's one of the first things to go as you get older. Regardless of if you stay in like really good shape, like you just don't have that like quick like information goes into your eyeball and then you can move your body rapidly to get out of the way.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So let me ask you, because this sounds a
yeah.
lot like a very grotesque version of the Hamzat and Robert Whitaker fight. In that, okay, if Jake Paul can survive the very beginning onslaught, or like basically just drag it into later rounds, he'll be fine. So,
Yeah.
do you think there will ever be a moment in this fight where it looks like Mike Tyson has caught Jake Paul and like either cornered him or like is able to get off one of those combinations?
I I I think I probably could see in the first round there being a knockdown. Not like Jake Paul gets hit on the chin and he like takes a knee. I think I could see Tyson coming in and like swarming with hooks and Jake Paul like having both of his hands up and like just the force of the hook kind of because Jake doesn't keep his body like loose so that he can roll with it. Like just the rigidity of his body, he'll just like kind of get pushed like off balance and like fall to
Mm,
his hands and knees. You know what I mean? I
okay.
could see that, but it's just really hard for me to like say that Tyson's going to be able to perfectly corner and then catch Jake Paul in the. But I mean, if he is going to do it, it's going to be the first round. So I don't know. I think probably the betting gods should favor Paul just being extremely young and being like, all I need to do is kind of survive.
Yeah.
But maybe he goes out there and is like, I want to put on a show and be knocked out or not be knocked out by Tyson. But when fights don't go his way, and even when they do go his way, they kind of tend to be pretty boring. Like the Jake
Yeah.
Paul fights were kind of boring.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the one he lost to with Tommy Fury, like he just was getting beat on the jab basically in that fight, and that was like it. So it's like, and he didn't try anything new. He just was like, well, I've lost this. Um, so I do wonder if this fight will be that entertaining or if he comes out because for talking a big game, he doesn't fight a very aggressive style or a very blood and guts style.
Right.
He fights a very basic style, and like when he does ever get hit, not that he ever gets hit super hard or super clean, but he tends to kind of go like, "Ooh, I didn't like that." So yeah, it's. I guess that's my question. Do you think this fight will be boring, or do you think this fight will be like either thrillingly exciting or like depressingly exciting?
I think it's gonna be pretty boring,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think there will be a moment where like maybe, Jake does land something that knocks Mike Tyson down. And I think that will be a little depressing and be like upsetting to see,
Mhm.
because again, we're gonna be reminded like, yes, this is like an almost 60-year-old man who has been thrown into the ring here, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, have you
But
heard interviews about him recently saying like about in this training camp he's had to kind of like bring out Iron Mike, like a
yeah.
different side of his personality, and he's like, I don't like that guy. I don't like being that guy, but that's what I have to be to like win this fight. And like I thought that guy was gone, but here he is again.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's sad. Like
Yeah.
he worked really hard like to like move on and have a more introspective life and try to like atone for the type of person he was back in the day. And now
Yeah.
we're all here for the sake of Jake Paul and Netflix. Like,
Yeah,
ain't that just the way, man? The capitalist machine grinding Mike Tyson up again. Kind of sad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, I'm right there with you. I'm pulling for Tyson to come out, like, I mean, I am still impressed that he can bend his knees, like in like that shallow squat
Yeah,
really quick to dip. And I'm like, God damn, I can't even do it that fast.
yeah.
Like,
It's
uh,
impressive what he can do still,
oh,
and
fuck
some of the
yeah.
training and coaching that he's done. It's been yeah, it is very impressive for someone in their 50s to be able to move that way.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like that's the thing is like Jake Paul is athletic for like the average donk, but like Mike Tyson actually is kind of like
A freak athlete.
a
Yeah,
legit, yeah. Like this is a gold medal athlete right here.
yeah.
Yeah,
And he spent years of his life dedicated to that, and
yeah, I know. But
just
then
like
he
you said,
spent
the body keeps score. The body also remembers that.
I know, but then he spent 20 years not doing it and drinking and doing drugs, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that is not going to have an effect on him.
mhm,
I'm just saying it's like, yeah, there are, but he does deep down. There is something in there, and
yeah,
you know, and that's the thing with boxing. Like, especially during those times, it's like if you were a fighter then, like
mhm,
that is your personality.
yeah,
You are someone who like knows what it's about and like it's you are in like do or die moments all the time. And that's what Mike Tyson's career was, you know, in his heyday. Jake Paul
mhm.
is not that,
No, I
he
mean
does
he is a
not have that
fighter.
personality. But it's different. He
Yeah, I
doesn't have,
guess. Like,
he
I
doesn't
mean,
have that like hunger.
sure. I like it feels a little silly getting to like who's the hungriest or who's not, but like
Of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, yes,
or
but
just like any fighter, like it's such a like every fight, it's like what Corey Sandhagen had said, where like Cheeto Vera had said like I'm gonna win, I win my fights because I want it more, and Corey Sandhagen's like everyone says that, man, like every
yeah,
fighter in the UFC says that. What happens when someone wants it just as much as you? You need to like actually train and have skill. You can't just like rely on I want it more. That's such a like grind set. I read Marcus Aurelius Cliff Notes, fucking thinking like it's it's silly.
but okay, but on that note, like, don't
Yeah,
you like there because there are a lot of fighters like, and we talked about this on this podcast before, like, you know, certain fighters like Ryan Garcia, like, yeah, he's got a lot of talent and ability, and he trains hard, but it's also like it's almost like he cares more about cosplaying as a fighter than being a fighter, you know?
yeah. I mean, Ryan Garcia is an interesting case. I think that one's a little bit more akin to like people wanting to be rock stars, but them being like, and I'm also going to do heroin, and you're like, that would interrupt your ability to be a rock star, my man. Like you're gonna have a hard time doing shows, and they're like, I don't care. This is part of the lifestyle, and you go like, well, that doesn't make you less of a rock star. It just makes you like less disciplined, right? I think there's a weird, I think especially in sports, and I think especially in fight sports, because we've been around a lot of the messaging that a lot of people, I mean, like in a boxing gym, in a kickboxing gym, in a jiu-jitsu gym, any martial arts gym, right? There's this very like you have to wring the sponge dry on discipline and ambition in order to like reach your like level.
Right.
And there's like sports science, especially for like the NFL and the NBA and the MLB, are showing that like actually like you actually hit diminishing returns on that shit really fast. So it could turn out that you could fuck off like 50% more of the time and probably just be as good, or you'd only lose like 1 or 2% off of your performance. And like
Mm.
that can make the difference, but in most instances it's not a 1 or 2% like margin of error in fights. So I find it a little unconvincing, especially because like you see Michael Jordan out there, like I think like 95% of it is just like are you, and I hate this phrase, but like it is legitimately like are you built different, like
Mhm.
like Michael Jordan, regardless of whether he trained really hard, he's still gonna style on 50% of the NBA,
Yeah.
like, and then to style on everyone else and even the greats alongside him, it required that discipline, but he was already so far ahead of the game, like it didn't. It's kind of like Max Holloway, like he trained really hard, but like dude, he's already got the chin and the gas tank to do that shit to a lot of people.
Mhm.
Anyway, well, we've diverted here. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. What happens? Who wins? Lay it on me.
I mean, it's probably going to be Jake Paul.
Yeah,
Unless Mike
yeah,
Tyson can like catch at the right time early in the rounds and get a knockout win,
yeah,
like or get like such a thunderous knockdown that again, it's kind of like we talked about like that lack of experience on Jake Paul's end, like it just scares him in the ring.
yeah,
So he's not able to respond, which we've seen professionals do,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then he's just like backpedaling and not able to kind of keep up with Mike. And even though it gets later in the rounds and like Mike will slow down, like if that fear is implanted in him, that's like the only way.
yeah. I could see that happening, like a really like heavy knockdown, and then him really struggling. I mean, it's like one of those. I mean, the peek behind the curtain. I know Colin knows this, but like anyone listening, like one of my like last like amateur kickboxing fights, I got knocked down like 4 times. I remember the first knockdown. I don't remember the other the other 3. Like your brain just kind of goes into autopilot, Like
Yep.
it's not a like consciously think about if you should get up or like if you should keep fighting or consciously like try to come back and win. Like most people, like your brain shuts off and your body goes into autopilot, and then sometimes you get up and sometimes you don't, and like
Yeah.
it's not like you're making a choice to be like fucking Eminem song playing in the background thinking of Southpaw being like, oh, I gotta get up. Like your fucking skeletal nervous system goes, all right, stand up, and you're like, all
Yeah.
right, I guess.
But
Yeah,
that's the thing too. Like we've also trained with people who hit by the same or even less things and get that feeling, and they don't stand up.
yeah,
Their instinct is to not get back up.
yeah.
So
I mean,
because we
Jake
haven't
Paul's
seen
been
Jake Paul in those, we haven't really seen him in that kind of waters before. So
Yeah, I guess he's never been like severely hurt. I mean, he got hit by Tyron Woodley, he got hit by Anderson Silva, he got hit by Mike Perry. Like they're not Mike Tyson punchers, but I think we keep looking back on like Mike Tyson in like his 30s or 20s like punchers.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we've never really seen Mike Tyson near 60 punching. Like what does that look like? Anyway. Yeah,
We've
it'll
also
be
never seen someone who was like super offensive oriented. Like we thought that was going to be the pace with
Mike
Mike
Perry.
Perry, but he was
Yeah.
like super tentative going in and like couldn't really get his rhythm or range. Anderson Silva is not that kind of fighter. Tyron Woodley is not that kind of stand up fighter either. He's more of a wrestler type guy. Don't get me started on Ben Askren. Like,
Yeah. Like Nate Diaz. I mean, Nate Diaz did kind of flurry against him, and Jake Paul covered well. But Nate Diaz is super tiny and undersized for that fight. I will also be interested to see, like, this is the first time Jake Paul will be fighting. He's supposedly going to try to weigh in around 225, where he usually weighs in, I think, around like 190, carrying an extra like 30 pounds of weight. Even though he's been training with it like that's a lot that
yeah,
like your nervous system has to kind of like recalibrate on, especially like in a fight. Like we saw this with Conor McGregor going up in weight against Nate Diaz, and he gassed out faster than he ever has. And his punches were more lethargic because his body just wasn't used to having to fight at that weight.
Mhm.
And so I think that will be interesting to see. Like, is Jake a little bit slower? Is he a little bit more, not necessarily lethargic, but like, is he just not as crisp in this fight? Not that he's very crisp
Yeah,
at all, but like,
yeah.
yeah. Is it one of those instances where if you've ever trained, you kind of are like, all right, now's the time to throw the punch, and about a tenth of a second later, you throw the punch, and you're like, why the fuck did it take so long for that message to go from my brain to my hand? Yeah. So, I mean, this is more than this fight like deserves us talking about it this long, but it is the big fight. I'm pulling for Mike, but I think we might probably just get a really boring fight with Jake
Yeah.
Paul winning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is going to 285 million people, or at least it will be available to 285 million people or TVs across the world. Have you had anyone who is not normally a fight fan ask you about this fight in public? Or like in your life?
Yeah, a few. I mean, most of the people I know are involved in martial arts at
Yeah.
some point. But yeah, some people have asked me about it, like the game. They're like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And I just
Uh-huh.
like it's like not. It's entertainment. It's not like a real boxing match. If that's what you're asking, like
I mean, it's gonna go on their records, baby. It's sanctioned.
it
It's real.
is.
It's yeah. I've had a couple of people that like I never watch fights ask me about this fight. So it does seem to like it has reach, and I haven't checked out any of the like bumper programming on Netflix. But they have like a countdown show on there. I know they've got some training footage, um, so they're pushing it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be. I'll be interested to hear what the numbers are and to see what the promotion is like. Right, like is the stream really smooth? Is it is the production value really good? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, because this is Netflix's first actual event and foray into live sports, right?
No, I think they had done like a tennis match before.
Oh, they did. They did.
And I think there's been one or two others. I can't recall like what other live ones they've done. But I think they have done like two or three others. Because they're really trying to get into that market. There's because the contracts are so tied up with like ESPN and other like traditional TV channels for the big sports. I think they're trying
Yeah,
to get fight sports, tennis, maybe golf. Oh, maybe it was a golf event that they played.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but this will be interesting because this will dictate not only where perhaps other boxing matches play out, right? Like because Riyadh season fights in Saudi Arabia are not actually making much return on pay-per-view overall.
Mhm.
Like, do they just start putting it on Netflix since this is mostly for a PR campaign to get Saudi Arabia to seem like a cool place to go visit? That's well, I mean that's that's what they're actually using it for. They don't care about boxing. I mean Turkey Al Sheikh does, but the government of Israel does not, or not Israel, Saudi Arabia does not. They're like, isn't this a cool place to come watch sports? Um, yeah. So I think that's the most interesting thing to me is what this looks like on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because I've never watched any of their live sports, and so like if this works, I mean, 'cause here's the thing. In Canada, I have to have a TV channel to watch the UFC. So I've got a subscription to ESPN Plus, and so I watch it mostly through that app. That app sucks.
Yeah,
That shit
it really
crashes
does.
constantly. Like it never, like it takes forever to load. The stream is not smooth. It goes in and out between having like 100 pixels on screen to like the actual amount that you should have for a human eye to like know what the fuck's going on. Yeah, so I'm kind of pulling for Netflix on this. I realize in saying that I'm kind of like pulling for a giant evil corporation. But I just as a consumer, I'm like I just would like to watch my fights. I want to watch my stories and my fights in nice, crisp, like 4K, please. Yeah.
And I just looked it up. Netflix is also you're right though. Netflix is this year will have two NFL games on Christmas Day.
Oh, see, like that's a smart play, man.
Yeah. So I
Right?
mean,
You don't need
yeah,
to go hunting through channels. You can just pop on Netflix. Flip it.
if the I don't think the UFC will because they're too much about pay per view. So I don't think they will have. Or maybe I could see them, doing kind of these like UFC Apex cards on Netflix.
They might even do the pay. I mean, because here's the thing: is the pay per view they get paid? What is it? Uh, they get paid a flat rate by ESPN to host their pay per views on their platform, and it's the equivalent of if 300,000 people bought the pay per view.
Okay.
Um, and from like we don't have the hard numbers, but from what people like Jed Mishu and who's the other guy that used to report on pay per view numbers when it was like back on cable. But that the pay per view numbers are not like exceeding 100,000, 200,000 buys for most
Mm.
UFC pay per views. Like it, but that almost doesn't matter because they're getting paid as if they automatically sold 300,000. So an extra 100 or 200,000 already makes it a $500,000 like or a $500,000 buy profit, and then they have been jacking up those ticket prices, so the gates end up paying for a ton of this shit. So like, I wonder if Netflix just comes in and goes, "We'll pay you for pay per view, but it's we'll pay you as if there were 400 or $500,000 buys, and then there's not even a pay per view involved."
Mhm.
Or Netflix says like, if you want live sports, you got to pay an extra $5 a month subscription, and then you can get the like pay per views for free for the UFC. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think the UFC really cares about like the actual pay per view numbers anymore. They mostly care about site fees and they care about their contractual revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like why they're not going to go to Spain or South Africa with their like Spanish and South African champion is because those countries aren't going to pay them site fees.
Mm.
Like the only place they go now that doesn't give them a site fee to have their like show there is Madison Square Garden, and that's mostly just like a prestige thing.
Yeah.
Because everywhere else, it's like Los Angeles is even giving them a site fee. Like everywhere's fucking doing it. So, yeah. Anyway, but this will be interesting. We have to talk about two other fights on this card, or actually,
Mm.
besides Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, do you recognize any other names on this fight card?
Well, until you told me about Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, I didn't know about them either. So
Fucking Philistine,
yeah,
absolute Philistine. Yeah, that's
I do not, unfortunately. But there's another title fight on this apparently. Because what you told me about Mario Barrios.
Yes, Mario Barrios. Like those are the only three fights that are really worth talking about. Because sorry, like my brain just like short circuited. Mario Barrios is, I think, like an interim champion. He's a pretty entertaining fighter. He gets a decent amount of knockouts. He's fighting a fighter with more knockouts than him, but they're both like above 50% knockout rates in their wins. Mario Barrios, I think his last big win was against was it Ugas? But yeah, he's an entertaining fighter, and so is Abel Ramos. This should be like this is actual boxing. Like I don't think either one of these guys is ever going to go on to win an undisputed title or unify undisputed titles, especially because they're in the same division as Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson. But they're pretty good. Mario Barrios has a really good lead hand, a lot of really stinging jabs, and then is really great at hooking off the jab with that lead arm. And Abel Ramos is kind of like a hard-nosed, gritty, blood and guts fighter. So this should probably be like a good show of boxing talent and like a pretty active fight, not like a chess match. Like this should be pretty entertaining. I'd argue it'd probably be the most entertaining fight on the card. Yeah, and then like before that, I think it's a bunch of like 4-0 boxers, and then social media personalities boxing. So who gives a shit about that? Don't watch that.
Yeah.
Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, though. We got to talk about this. So you didn't know anything about Katie Taylor?
Nope.
The woman who called the Olympic Commission and got women's boxing into the Olympics in 2012. Like
what?
Yeah. Katie Taylor, man, like the national pride, the most celebrated current athlete in Ireland. Yeah, she won the world championships 2006, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016. She was instrumental in getting female boxing into the Olympic Games in 2012 and then won gold there. She was the undisputed lightweight champion, and I think she still actually is the undisputed female lightweight champion. All 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 belts in the 4-belt era. She's got all 4. She also became the second woman to get undisputed titles in 2 different weight classes, along with Clarissa Shields. So we've got Terrence Crawford, Inoue, Clarissa Shields, and Katie Taylor as the only 4 people in boxing in the 4-belt era to unify 2 divisions. She's absolutely phenomenal, man.
Did you say Usyk as well?
Usyk is... Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot. Usyk. Yes, that's right. So we've got 5 people now.
Hey. And all pretty recently. That's good.
I know, dude. Boxing, like, now is the time to be watching boxing. I keep saying it. Like,
yeah.
It's all been pretty recent. Clarissa Shields had done it, I think, quite a bit ago, but yeah, now it's pretty recent. But yeah, Katie Taylor's, if not number 1, then number 2 pound for pound best female boxer alive currently. And Amanda Serrano is, if not 1, number 2 pound for pound female boxer alive. This is number 1, number 2 pound for pound fighting. She unified the featherweight titles and has kind of like held on to that for a while. This is moving up to lightweight, so she will be undersized compared to Katie Taylor, and Katie Taylor is a pretty decently sized lightweight. They previously fought before to a split decision in Madison Square Garden. I scored the fight for Amanda Serrano, but it's one of those fights that was so close. Probably either way you scored it, it would be okay, right? It was not a robbery. It was not anything. But this is, I mean, this is essentially for pound best. They're both getting a little bit older in their careers. I mean, they're still smoking anyone else they fight. So it's kind of like this is really the only other, not only other challenge because they can keep moving up in weight and then kind of get undersized and have tough fights against lesser skilled opposition. But
Mhm.
this, I mean, we've talked about how historic this shit has been. We had at welterweight finally when Crawford and Spence fought. It was like this is to see who's the guy in this division for this generation. Same thing with Usyk and Fury. This is to see who's the guy at heavyweight for 4 belts. Like this has never happened before, and whoever wins this will go into like the conversation of top 10 or top 5 all time best heavyweights. And it was
Mhm.
the same thing with Better Be Even Bivol, and now we get it for the women's division. And it's not just, at lightweight, at featherweight, at light welterweight. This is who is the best living female boxer for this generation. And it's
Mhm.
Katie Taylor or Amanda Serrano. Like, Katie Taylor's going to have that slight edge, but this, I mean, this is really smart, I think, matchmaking. Because Jake Paul is Amanda Serrano's promoter. But like putting this on like this is the real fight. Like if this was a meritocracy, this would be headlining the card. But you don't get eyeballs to sign into Netflix when Colin doesn't even know who Katie Taylor is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's sad, man. But yeah, this is gonna be a great fight. This is the fight to watch overall.
All right, all
Um,
right.
yeah, like this. So we've got a run of 2 good fights, and then probably what will be a really boring, disgusting freak show fight, unless Mike Tyson does knock him out, like you said. Then it's jubilation. People run to the streets, hugging and kissing. It's like V-Day all over again. You know, like it's gonna be exciting. Uh, yeah, it's when does this fight card start? Do you know?
Good question. I don't know, but it's in Texas, so
Yeah, at Jerry World, which is exciting. I wonder what what's the for those who don't know, who don't watch football, Jerry World is Cowboy Stadium. So if you've ever been to an American Thanksgiving or Christmas, you've most likely seen Cowboy Stadium and know what it looks like. Um, what is the capacity at
I think
Cowboy
it's
Stadium?
50 or 60,000.
Uh, so 80,000, which can be expanded to 100,000 if you have
Whoa.
standing room. I, God, I don't know if there's going to be 80,000 people there.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, dude, people might show up to watch. It's weird because you have no like. There's no frame of not you. I mean, I meant the proverbial you. Have no frame of reference for, um, like who will go and see this fight? Like not boxing fans, right?
Yeah,
Like this will be a bunch of like teenagers and their like parents they're like, I want to go see Jake Paul, or a bunch of like older people who are like, oh, I remember Tyson when I was like a kid or a teenager. I want to go see him like relive a glorious moment where he knocks his
Mhm.
kid out. You know, it won't be like, oh, I'm like a dyed in the wool fight fan. I got to go see this. It'll be people interested in Jake Paul or people like on the nostalgia trip for Tyson,
Yeah.
which I don't think will be boxing fans. You know, which like leads me like how much like wooing and booze and dumb chants will there be in the stands while these fights are going on?
Hmm.
Because
Good
my thought is
question.
that Katie Taylor's like Amanda Serrano fight will probably not result in knockout and probably be like very nip tuck technical affair. Like I could see them getting booed pretty roundly
Yeah.
by an idiot crowd,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh, yeah.
Texas, man. Like, ugh. Um, so yeah, fuck. I don't know. Um, I don't know. It's depressing. It's depressing. Like as much as we're talking about it, I find this whole thing depressing.
Yeah.
Um, it is. It's so weird. Like I was thinking about it. I mean, we know this as like a fact, but like, there's no other sport where, when you get old, that like the most likely path for you exiting the sport is becoming publicly humiliated on television after being like after receiving brutal concussive or other physical damage. You know what I mean? Like if you just your arm starts to kind of go as a quarterback, like they just kind of bench you more, or like you become second string. You're not first up. Or like in basketball, they bench you more, and like you slowly just kind of fade out of your contract. You play a little less, you take a little less injury, or you're nursing injury and they cut you. Like it just kind of is like a slow roll to like, and then they just kind of go away. You have a bad season, maybe, but then you just kind of go like, all right, I'll hang it up. Whereas in fight sports, people usually don't hang it up or begin to leave until something devastating happens and they are like, oh shit, I got starched hard. And man, if that ain't the way here, where we're just taking Mike Tyson and being like, you don't get to leave the sport yet, buddy. We have to sacrifice you one more time to a young person. It really is you have to feed the old to the young in boxing and MMA. It's sad, man. It's a bummer. If Jake Paul wins, what do you want him to see? What do you want him to do next?
I don't really care, but fuck it. Give him Canelo.
Canelo, there you go. All right. I'm like he might do the Canelo fight just to make money, right? Could we get a freak show fight where we get I don't think anyone would ever sanction it. Maybe Japan would. In a way versus Jake Paul.
Come on, man. That's like a kid fighting an adult. Like even if in a way didn't cut down, he would be like 100 and maybe 40 pounds.
Yeah, but like it's in a way, baby. Peak of his prime, pound for pound, one of the best boxers. Hits like a truck for that weight class. Like, you don't think it'd be? Don't you think that would be at least a little bit more intriguing than the Canelo fight?
I mean, yeah, but like,
because like, I think Jake Paul has mostly made his career off of beating really bad strikers in MMA who are already past their primes, which tells us nothing other than like if you're past it in your athletic prime and you never were actually a good boxer, you probably aren't going to beat a young athletic person who's taking boxing seriously. But like, let's get some data points on this shit. Let's see what like the smallest prime boxer is that can knock out Jake Paul. I want it to be like in Princess Bride when it's like Andre the Giant fighting the Man in Black. Like I want to see what this thing looks like. Or can we get him in an MMA because he's got the PFL MMA fight? Can we get him in with like Demetrius Johnson? Because like, I mean, I'd pick DJ to beat him within an inch of his stupid life, but like. I like we need some hard data, right? You go into a martial arts school and they're like, it's all about technique. The small man can beat the big man, and I'm like, not often does that happen. But I feel like here we've got a perfect example of like getting to see that, and maybe then we'll stop hearing MMA fans be like, I don't watch anything below middleweight because I can beat anyone else up because I'm bigger, and I'm like, you probably couldn't.
All right, I would pay a pay-per-view to see DJ versus Jake Paul in a MMA fight. I would pay money for that.
Good, yeah. It is interesting because he does have that contract with the PFL for at least one fight. I don't know who he'll fight. There was talk about like Nate Diaz, but Nate Diaz doesn't seem interested in that. And like if they just put him in there against some other like jabroni that they like, they found on Uber Eats, like that's not going to be great. So yeah, I think like DJ would be cool. Again, you'd have to do it in Japan where they allow like freak show fights like that. But that'd be interesting. If Mike Tyson wins, let's say Mike Tyson starches Jake Paul, do you think he's gonna call for another fight or he's gonna? That's my worry.
I do, yeah. I do worry about that, but I don't think that will happen.
No.
Okay. I don't think Mike Tyson's going to be entertaining more fights, like because he had the Roy Jones fight, which was what 4 years ago, 5 years ago now.
I think that was 2020, maybe it was 2021. Let me look. And he looked, I gotta say, like again, really grading on a curve because it's an old man fight. He looked pretty good. He looked definitely better than Roy Jones did.
Yeah.
When was this Roy Jones fight? Let me see. That was 2020, November 28, 2020. It's
Okay.
almost exactly 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, eh,
Meh. Yeah. Yeah. It's what a weird card, man. What a weird card.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. In the vein of freak show fights, last question. If Netflix is going to do this kind of spotty, like, hey, maybe one big event here, one big event there, just to test out the market for um, live sporting events, is there another combat sports fight you think would really benefit from being right on Netflix? The easiest, smoothest kind of like customer journey between I know about a thing to actually watching the thing. Is there any fight you can think of, freak show or not, that you think would really benefit from being on Netflix?
Anything Conor McGregor?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I guess. Have you kept up talking about depressing shit? Kept up with his or seen anything about his trial in Ireland?
No, I've not.
Yeah, being accused of rape and pretty horrifying details coming out about his behavior and like apparently in Ireland it's like pretty well known like don't get into a car with him if you're a lady.
Hmm.
So like I wonder if he's ever coming back. And he also has to fight in the UFC 2 times before he can ever box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I also like I do want because their contract is coming up with ESPN at the end of 2025. I do wonder if they are like also putting Conor McGregor on ice so that they can hold him as a negotiating chip
Hmm.
or whoever signs the next deal for 2026. You know, to go like we have Conor, he like we'll get his final 2 fights in the UFC if you give us a bunch of money, and then then they give him fights in 2026.
Hmm.
But we'll see. Yeah, anything Connor, Jake Paul. You think that would be a big one?
Yeah. I mean, I could see it.
Yeah. Do you think Jake Paul beat Conor McGregor? Probably.
Yeah, I think he could.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Probably, man. All right. Yeah. I mean, you're not thinking outside of the box, though, dude. Like, we could. You gotta like what? There's got to be another freak show fight out. Like I'm saying, Inoue versus Jake Paul. That's good vibes right there. We like that. That's cool. Here's my thing. Why not? If Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson at heavyweight, right? And so he has a heavyweight win under his belt. Let's say he knocks out Mike Tyson. There's another heavyweight boxer out there who isn't really a boxer, but is a big name and hits really hard. And I'm talking about Francis Ngannou. Why not do Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul? Wouldn't that be kind of the biggest capitalization of both of their names in boxing? That's
Yeah.
about as good as they could do because I don't see Francis coming back and like having a more competitive fight with Anthony Joshua or
No,
you know
no.
like any like actual ranked heavyweight. But Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul in a boxing match at heavyweight, and then maybe because Jake Paul also is under the PFL banner, like maybe then an MMA fight between those two and have it be like two fights in a row where they fight each other. Like that might be the most amount of money that the PFL and each other could leech out of the situation, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's what they should do. That's what I want to see. I want to see Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul box. I think that would be
So you do want to see him murder?
Yeah, man. I'm like Herb Dean. I'm like Dan Murgliata.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. No, I don't want to see a murder, but like I just like I kind of want to like get to the end of this. You know, like I'm ready. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Like, all right, we're doing this. Let's just go 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's Jake Paul just keeps dragging this shit out, and it's like let's get to the end. Like if it is just Canelo, if that is the ultimate goal for like a 40, I mean he's supposedly going to get paid $40 million for this fight. Jake Paul.
Jesus.
Yeah, so it's like let's just get to the end, man. Like let's just cash in, give us that $100 million fight. Like let's just get there, right? Or if you do want to be a boxer who's not in freak show fights, like let's start getting you real legitimate fights. Like let's do that. Let's not have you be fighting these like 4-4 low level like club boxers. Let's get you moving. Same thing with Francis Ngannou, right? Like it was cool to see him against Tyson and Joshua, but like that kind of went all right. he can maybe fight in free show fights or really washed heavyweights that are fun. And it's like, well,
Right.
great. We have Jake Paul at heavyweight. Let's get Jake Paul in there. Like that's freak show, right? It would, if he does beat Francis, that would lend some credibility to him as a boxer and as a fighter. So like let's just do that. Let's just get there.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's my thought. Anyway. Anything else about this fight card? Or I guess the whole influencer Jake Paul experience.
Nah, I mean, are you gonna watch it?
Hey, God, I don't know, man. It depends on what I'm doing on Friday. You know, like if it's a nice day out and I go for a walk, like maybe I'll just be doing that. But here's the thing. I actually do want this event to do really well. I definitely will want to watch the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight live because I'm worried that what'll happen is the eyeballs will only tune in for Paul and Tyson. But like I've been hearing about people who are having watch parties for this thing and like people that don't
Jeez.
watch fights ever. So I do want to see Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. And the thing is, like, you can probably show up at a bar and watch this because they can just slap it on Netflix, right? I I want this to perform well because I think having Netflix in the ring of live sports really kind of makes things interesting and kind of shakes up like how we will consume sports in the future. Like it's going to happen either way. And so if combat sports can get in kind of at the ground level for this, I think that'd be probably good. And I think maybe it would shake some of the fighters out of their like malaise about like, oh, we're not underpaid. We actually should, we should actually just lick the boot and fight for scraps. Because if they see it's on Netflix, they'd be like, holy shit, we're on Netflix? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, because like there's been reports, right? So the UFC had settled that $375 million lawsuit, and apparently a lot of fighters that Ben Fowlkes and John Nash have been talking to are either A, totally unaware of like how much they were going to get paid, and they're like, oh, it'd just be a couple $1,000s, right? Or it's people being like actually kind of upset. They're like, you can't like hard psychologically to realize you were taken advantage of when you've constantly told yourself you weren't taken advantage of, and then the court comes, goes, actually you were, to the drum of like hundreds of thousands of dollars for you
Right.
individually. Like, and so people are like, I actually don't want to take the money because like fuck that, it's an insult. And you're like, boys, you could get close to $1 million. Like every fighter, even if you fought once in the UFC on the lowest level contract, you're still gonna get paid $15,000. Like, go buy like a Toyota Corolla with that shit. Like go get something, like yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I want this event to do well, but I also am like, I don't know if I want to like, I want the event to do well, but I don't want Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, right? Jake Paul specifically, to be rewarded for beating up Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm like, this is so gross. This is so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am conflicted. Are you gonna watch it?
Again, it's one of those things where it's like I'm not playing my day around it. If I happen to be free, I'm like, all right, I'll turn it on.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they probably are going to allow it to be watched on replay because I assume the tail on this thing, especially if there is like a knockout, people will want to like jump on Netflix and
Right.
watch it. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear. I mean, we'll never be able to independently verify the viewer numbers. We'll just have to trust what Daddy Netflix tells us. And like, I always am like, well, are they inflating that shit by like 50%? I don't know. So yeah, again, I'm not gonna plan my day around it. But if I'm sitting there and I'm just watching fucking like Simpsons episodes and not doing anything, I'll be like, oh, I'll throw it on. I will probably try to watch the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight.
Right.
Because yeah, that's like a little like if that was a pay-per-view, I'd buy that pay-per-view and watch it. Like it's a worthwhile competition to see. So, but let me look up like when the actual start time of this thing is.
It's 8 p.m. Eastern time, so
Now,
5 p.m.
Is that the
Western.
main event walk, or is that the beginning of this card?
That's the beginning of this card.
Oh shit! And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights before then. Oh, so this thing could go
not until like the main event may not actually be until like 9 p.m.
Pacific time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's that. This is look, man. There's some elder abuse going on here, like actual legitimate elder abuse, but not to be outdone by Jake Paul. The UFC will have an event the following day with even more elder abuse. Yeah, have you seen that there's like a ton of fights that fell out of this 309?
No. Which other ones have?
I think Nikita Krylov versus Azmat Mirzakhanov fell out. David Oyama versus Lucas Almeida fell out. Was there one or two others? What's crazy is they moved Chris Weidman off the pay-per-view. Now they have
Yeah.
Mauricio Ruffy versus James Lolentop. And I'm like, who?
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we'll see what the card looks like when it comes up. We'll talk about that next week. Yeah, this was dude, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
These violent delights have violent ends, Colin. And it's gonna be gross watching this, but there we are. That's what happens. All right, this has been Two Fight Fans podcast. I'm One Fight Fan Stuart.
I'm the other Colin.
And yeah, I guess not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday we'll talk about the fallout of all that. But this weekend, you've got a one championship. Do you kind of have a UFC card? Not really. It's mostly like a LFA card. It's not even it's regional level MMA. And then you've got cool boxing matches. Watch Jerome Boots Ennis and Bam Rodriguez. That's a real boxing match, not like the fight we talked about today. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.